Good morning, students. Today we'll be discussing unit number 3. I will start with the basic contents of unit number 3. In unit number 3, the major contents are we'll start with dependency of P and F, dependency between P and F, and we will see the need for maintaining frequency constant. And to maintain this frequency constant, what they will be doing, load sharing will be done among the available units. And here itself we'll be discussing about how frequency is regulated using load sharing. We'll be seeing different types of frequency regulation. And next, we'll be discussing a turbo generator, the control channel. And next, the most important one, we'll define what do you mean by a control area, a single control area, and a double control area, or a two-area control system. And we'll also discuss the components of a control area, which will be majorly speed governor, turbine, generator, and followed by load. These will be the components of control area, and we will model each of these components in its mathematical expression. And from that, we will develop a control system model. And we will finally develop a control system model for a single area system and also a two area system. And once we get a proper control model of a single area and a two area system, then we will ultimately control the frequency using proper controls, or what we call it as suitable control. So our target is to control the frequency when there is a change in speed. So for that, what you are doing? First of all, we'll be discussing what is the need of frequency, what is a turbo generator, what is a single area system, what is a two area system. These are all very theory topics up to here. If possible, I will complete all these topics in today's class. Once these are done, then we will move on to the control area. We will take a single control area. We will see what are the components in the single control area. We will try to understand what is the working of these individual components, develop mathematical expressions, convert them into control systems. So we will apply the knowledge of your control systems in developing suitable control system model for a physical system. Next, we will control our frequency, which is the primary target of our unit number 3. Okay. So today's class, I'll be concentrating on all of the theory topics today itself, because those are all very minute. Each of these modeling is a heavy task, single area and also two area systems. These are very heavy tasks. So first of all, let me start with the theory topics. The dependency between P and F, the need for maintaining frequency constants, and the load sharing, how it will be done, what are the different types of frequency regulation, and I will also give you a glimpse of turbo generator and what are the various control channels of the turbo generator. Okay. Now, having said that, we'll start with turbo generator first of all, and next we will move on to load sharing, then we will move on to finally, because we already discussed this need for maintaining frequency constant in the last class. Hope we will continue this one, because this is one of the important things which an electrical engineer must know, why frequency should be maintained constant. Okay. So first let me start with this in the reverse case turbo generator, so that I can explain to you the dependency between P and F. Okay. So first of all, before moving into all the responses, as you all know, we do have different types of generators in our country. Even though we do have solar plants, most of the times we do have different types of moving elements in our power plant. We do have hydraulic generators, hydraulic turbines. We do have steam turbines, what we call it as a turbogen. And we do have wind turbines. These are the different types of turbines which we do employ in our electrical plants, in our electrical generation unit. Isn't it? These are different in nature. They do run at their different speeds depending on manufacture. Steam plants, steam turbines are very, very fast. These are very slow. And these are ultra slow. They are very, very slow. So the speeds of these turbines, they will be different. So when these speeds are different, in order to get the ultimate frequency, you know the formula, N is equal to 120 F by T, isn't it? So F is equal to, so for that time in hydraulic machine, the number of poles will be a little bit higher. Whereas in steam turbine, you will be requiring less number of poles, whereas in case of wind turbine, you will be requiring large number of poles. So in that way, you will be finally getting a constant value of frequency, even though the speed of the turbines will be different. But this is a manufacturing thing, isn't it? If speed is rated, then we can design the number of poles. So the number of poles is basically designed based upon the rated speed. But it's not the case, because the speed will be varying continuously in power. For that one, we need to regulate the frequency all the time. Let us suppose if it is running at 1500 RPM, this is running at 3000 RPM, and it is running at some 250 RPM, then we can fix the number of poles. But it is, let us suppose, running at 5001 or 5002 suddenly. What should I do? I should not go with the variation of poles, because once it is manufactured, we can't change the number of poles so easily. So that's why what you are supposed to do? You are supposed to reduce or regulate the speed by regulating the frequency. Now, how to regulate the speed of the machine? That's what we will be developing in this unit. The relations between the different terms in power. Okay. And as you all know, you know these terms very well, P and Q. Active power demand and reactive power demand. These active power demand and reactive power demand, they are always continuously varying. They are very dynamic in nature. They are never steady, and they continually change with respect to time. No one can expect when they will be rising, when they will be falling. Isn't it? And how power demand is being met, you know very well. There will be a generator, isn't it, which will be providing you three-phase supply, assuming that there is only one generator. And how this generator is being fed? This is being fed with your turbine, isn't it? A turbine drives your generator. And what will be having? a field, isn't it? Mechanical input will be getting from your turbine, and this will provide your excitation. So when these two are controlled, then you will be getting a controlled P and Q. For P control, what you're supposed to do, you're supposed to vary the turbine power. The higher the turbine power, the higher the active power will be. So if the demand is very high, active power demand, what you are supposed to do? If this is high, then turbine power must be high, mechanical power must be pushed more. Turbine, let us suppose I am considering only steam turbine, because these are the base load plants. I will be considering only the base load plants. If its power output is to be made high, what I must do? I must increase the steam input. See, this is a process. The steam input to the turbo generator, this is called as a turbo generator, isn't it? The steam input must be increased if you do experience an increase in the power demand. If the power demand is low, then you should regulate your steam. If not matched, kinetic power, isn't it? It will take up this kinetic power. So what will happen if it draws the current? Frequency will drop. So to maintain frequency constant, steam accordingly. Isn't it? That is the way of how the scheme runs. Okay. Similarly, if you want to increase reactive power, what you should do? You must examine yeah. The higher the excitation, the higher will be your reactive power. Okay. So if you want a higher reactive power, what you are supposed to do? You are supposed to increase your excitation. If you want to increase your active power, you should increase your steam. In this way, there are two separate channels. Both are considered to be independent, even though there is a very little dependency between these two channels. Most of the times, we will consider them as independent channels. Okay. And imagine, this is not a small system. This is a very large system. You might have visited different power plants in your life, isn't it? These generators, they will be of the size of a building. So it is not possible to control these things manually, because it will be varying continuously. You can't vary this one continuously. You need an automatic control, isn't it? So in order to have an automatic control, a device called a load frequency controller is installed on every system. Okay. Similarly, if you want to regulate the reactive power, voltage regulator will be installed on each generator. This is load frequency controller, which controls the frequency, regulates the frequency and active power. This regulates the reactive power and voltage. Now, what we have understood so far, that there are two separate channels, and they are majorly dependent. They are not majorly dependent on each other. We can consider them as independent channels. So what are the two channels? One is, this is power to frequency. This is PF channel, active power to frequency. The other one is reactive power to voltage, because excitation depends upon the voltage, isn't it? The higher the voltage you provide here, the higher is the excitation, the higher will be your reactive. Similarly, If you don't regulate the steam, the higher the power demand, it will draw your kinetic power, thereby reducing the frequency. These are inversely proportional, isn't it? But these are directly proportional. But anyway, this is a separate channel, this is a separate channel. One is active pore channel, the other one is a reactive pore channel. Okay. Now, out of these two channels, if you carefully see, this is one of the important things which you must listen. Out of these two channels, if you carefully see, this channel, active pore channel, is consisting of large number of elements, isn't it? If you are giving steam input, means there will be so many elements present here, isn't it? See, there are very mechanical devices. See, this is a mechanical device, this is a mechanical device, and all these are very heavy machinery. So that's fine. It is not easy to operate them, it is not easy to control them, isn't it? So that's fine. Because of this heavy machinery, the reaction time will be very, very slow. Okay. So that's fine. This load frequency controller, what I call it as load frequency controller. The load frequency controller is slow. Do remember this one. It is very, very, very slow. Okay. Why? Because of the large time constant. This is very heavy machinery. It offers very large time constant. This is also very heavy machinery. It also offers very large time constant. Why? Because heavy machinery involved, and this will lead to large time constant. This is a symbol of time constant, isn't it? So since large machines are involved, the time constant offered will be very high, and that's fine. They will be very strong in nature. On the other hand, this doesn't involve just what you'll be having a voltage source, isn't it? It doesn't have any high equipment, heavy equipment, so that's fine. Its time constant is very, very low. So that's why response time is very fast. The response time is very, very fast. So, sir, now we might get a question, sir, why should we understand why you are telling me this low frequency controller is slow acting and this one is fast acting? Why beta? Because if anything happens in this channel, let us suppose some transient occurs in this channel, then it takes a large amount of time for us to mitigate this one. This is the indication of this one. If it is slow acting means if unwanted thing happens, then for regulating it, we do require large amount of time. Whereas this one, we can regulate it, we can control the transient very quickly. So that is a problem with the load frequency control. Understood now? So now we will move ahead. So now how many control loops are there? There are two control loops which are employed in large generators. If it is a small generator, we will consider it as a single loop. But here, we will be considering it as two separate loops. What is the first loop? Load frequency or EF channel. The other one is QV channel, isn't it? So the first one is called as control channel. What are the two control channels? The first one is PV. What we call it as load frequency controller. It is called as a load frequency controller or load frequency regulator or load frequency loop, whatever the. Why it is normally employed to maintain the frequency constant. In some of the textbooks, it is also referred to as megawatt units of P, megawatt frequency, or hertz, or sometimes it is generally less. Megawatt frequency channel. The other channel is, I'm extremely sorry, this is PV, this is QV, right? This is reactive power voltage channel, isn't it? normally referred as voltage controller. The top one is referred as to frequency controller. This is voltage controller. So in most of the textbooks, similar to the top one, this is also referred to as megawatt volt channel. Don't get confused. Both do depend upon the turbo generator itself. Both are part of turbo generator. But these two things, active power and reactive power, they are treated as independent channels. Okay. I hope you do remember this one. Now, let's have a look about these two channels and what are the various components which will be there in a turbo generator. Now I will show you, first of all, what are the components which will be there in the turbo generator. I have been saying this word turbo generator from a long time, isn't it? Since the start of the class. Now let's have a look about what will be there in the turbo generator. A turbo generator is what I call it as a steam turbine with combination with a generator, with all of its controlling and regulating equipment. So I'll start with the generator. Assume that this is a generator. Okay, the key part of all of these things is a generator, which takes in two inputs. One is the excitation, the other one is the mechanical. From the turbine. This is the mechanical input from the turbine, and this is excitation. Assuming that it is a controllable excitation. Now, normally in our laboratories, we'll be having excitation boxes. So, excitation, controllable excitation or excitation boxes. So, to turbine, what is the input data? The input is steam, which comes from some valve. This is steam. Isn't it? Here there will be a valve. Here there will be a valve where you will be controlling the steam input to your turbine. I am considering it as main steam valve. Main steam valve. So this generator, after getting mechanical input from here, getting excitation from here, what it will deliver? It will deliver a three-phase AC. This is a three-phase AC. Now, assuming that this is P plus D. Okay. Now, what I will be doing? I will be doing. Okay. Now here, I'll be employing whenever there is any change in the delta P, then automatically what happens? The frequency will be falling down, isn't it? So I am employing. Okay. I'll draw it. So any change in active power, it will be sensed by your frequency sensor. Okay. Any change in active power, delta PG, it will be sensed by frequency sensor, and frequency sensor, it will be giving its input to your LFC control, load frequency control. Okay. This load frequency controller immediately gives a signal to whom it is supposed to give the signal. So there is some change in output. Frequency has decreased, so it has sensed that there is a change in frequency, which means that there is a change in demand, active demand. For that, what you are supposed to do? You are supposed to regulate the steam valve, regulate the turbine power, then regulate your mechanical power to your generator. So this LFC controller, immediately it gives a signal to this valve control mechanism. which will control your steam. Okay. This is valve control mechanism. This is not a signal. This is control. Directly a control. Okay. Sometimes it is not the frequency sensing of this particular area. Sometimes you will be getting a demand requirement from some other area also. In that time also, this one we will be discussing later, this delta P type. But try to remember it. Okay. When there is requirement in some other area also, you should increase your turbine power, thereby generate more power and transfer it to some other area. This is the request from other areas. Okay. So this is your, what is this? PF channel. Change in active power, sensed by change in frequency. LFC controller giving signal to valve control mechanism, adjust the steam input to the turbine, to the generator. Okay. On the other hand, if there is any change in delta Q, then there will be a voltage sensor. This voltage sensor, they will be giving signal to your QV control. It will be giving signal to your QV control, isn't it? It will govern your controllable like that. Isn't it? So this is a schematic diagram of two regulators. This is your LF controller, LF channel, whereas this one is your QV channel. Now, unit number 3 is all about LF channel. LF channel. Okay. And if you carefully see the important components of your LF channel are, this is called as a speed governor. The entire thing is called as a speed governor. This entire scheme is called as a speed governor. This is a turbine, and this is your generator, followed by the load also. So these three are the important components of LF channel, and we will try to model, develop, because if you can carefully see, these are all linked things, isn't it? If you are able to develop some control system transfer functions, then we can put all these things and develop a final mathematical expression so as to understand the response of the system. I hope you have understood what we have discussed so far. What I was telling you so far is that there will be two separate channels in turbo generator. One is LF channel, the other one is a QV channel, and I am concentrating on LF channel. And shown on the board are the important components of LF channel. What are the important components? Speed governor, which controls the steam valve setting. The other one is a turbine, and the other one is a generator combined with the load. Okay. So by controlling the speed governor setting, turbine will be controlled, thereby active power at the generator will be controlled. And there was another concept there, isn't it? What was the concept? Delta P type. So what I have mentioned is that this may be a demand from some other area, isn't it? It is a demand from some other area. Even if some other area asks you to generate more power, you should immediately regulate your steam valve setting and develop more power and transmit it to some area, isn't it? So before going for this modeling of speed governor, turbine, generator, load, etc. Now let's get back to your starting point again. Today we will discuss one more theory topic, how frequency will be regulated. Now what we are doing so far, we are discussing only about a single plant where only one generator is, isn't it? Now let us suppose if two generators are there. If two plants are there or two generators are there, which means multiple generators are there. So how load will be shared to maintain the frequency constant? That we will see now. There will be different types of frequency regulation. Now, moving to the second topic now. Now we will see types of frequency regulation. This is also one short answer which we will be asking you regularly. So now we will be discussing about the types of frequency regulation. Types of frequency regulation. So let us suppose if there is only one generator. If there is only one generator of the system in the system, isn't it? Now let us suppose there is only a single generator and there are multiple loads. Isn't it? And there are multiple loads. L1, L2, L3, L4, L4. Okay, we will consider only two loads, okay? So, for easy understanding, L1, L2. When there is only one generator, meeting two loads, whatever the thing which it says, it is going to be fine, isn't it? It is called as a monopoly. So, normally, whenever there is an increase in the load, what you will do? You will increase the turbine power from the steam valve. So when there is an increase in either L1 or L2 or both L1 and L2, whatever may be the scheme, if there is an increase, so immediately what you will be sensing that there is an increase in power demand because your frequency will be dropping. So immediately you will pump in more steam input, thereby more active power will be developed, thereby frequency will be regulated. So if there is only one generator. Normally we will be considering 5%. Variation frequency is also okay. Below this 5% changes, 5% can drop by a local, no react time, you will be setting up the steam again. Isn't it? Now, no problem. Even if there are multiple loads also, you will be adjusting your steam valve of this generator, thereby meeting your demand. Now, I'll show you one more problem. Now, there are multiple generators, then the system becomes complex. Now, I will show you how it becomes complex. Now, go over here. Now, there are two generators and two loads, S1 and S2, isn't it? Now, let us suppose S1 both are operating at 100, 100 and 100, 100. Assuming that this is a steady case, okay? G1 is generating 100 and it is providing S1 100 and G2 is also providing 100 megawatts and it is providing 100 megawatts and transmission power is 0. The power is not being transmitted over the transmission. Now let us suppose if I increase to 150, if I increase it to 150, now who has to generate the power? Excessive power. Because earlier it was 100, G1 was generating 100. Now I have increased it to 150. Who is supposed to generate me the excessive power? So what? Earlier 100. Now what I'm doing? 50. This 50 is the big question. Who has to generate? Has he to generate? Or has he to generate? Case 1. Only G1 or G2 have to generate. Isn't it? ఎవరో ఒకరే లేదా case 2 closer 1 will generate. Closer 1 ఎవరున్నారు? G1 will generate. Case 3 G1 and G2 will generate the excessive power equally. Case 4 G1 and G2 will share on selective basis. So there are number of cases of how to share the excessive load, isn't it? When there was only one generator, only we should control we had a need to control only one steam turbine. But now there are two generators. Any increase in one area, it is having multiple cases for us. Because if we don't take care about these things, immediately what will happen? The frequency falls. So we should regulate the frequency by ramping up the generation. So where to ramp up the generation? Where to increase the generation? That is a big question. So for that one, see the middle one is called as a tie line. Okay, PT is called as a power transport over the tie line. So that is the tie line, right? Okay. So now how to share the load between two plants? Even if two plants itself, see how complex it is. So now, as we have discussed different cases, case 1, case 2, case 3, case 4, now we will see each case step by step. And we will discuss what the merits and demerits of those cases, okay? Now, case 1, I will redraw the figure now for a better case. Okay, I hope you are able to see the figure. Yeah. So now, let's get back to the thing. I hope you are able to understand the figure. There are two generators and there are two loops. Now, case 1, if the change in load is at either of S1 or S2, wherever the load change is. Let us suppose in earlier case we have taken that there is a change in S1. There may be change in S2 also. Okay. So if the change in load is at, now I will write change in load is at either S1 or S2. Change at load is at either S1 or S2, but only G1 is employed to regulate the power change. S1 పెరిగినా G1 నే సప్లై చేయాలి, S2 పెరిగినా G1 నే సప్లై చేయాలి. Okay. Wherever may be the load change, if only one generator is employed to regulate the power change or the frequency, it is called as a flat frequency regulation. So it is called as flat frequency regulation. Okay. which means only one generator is operating. One generator is taking care of the loads anyway. Whereas G2, it is not doing anything. It is just only operating at its base load. G2, what it is doing is operating at base load. G2 is operating at base load. Yeah. So what are the drawbacks for this one? What are advantages of this one? The advantage is very, very simple thing. Only we need to control, only we need to monitor only G1, is it? We don't need to bother about G2. If we can control G1, then we can do everything. Now, what are the drawbacks of this thing? If there are any changes in, if changes in S2, if let us suppose S2 is increased, what? G1 is supposed to increase the power and it is supposed to transmit the power onto S2. If changes in S2, then G1 must generate or must regulate power, and the changes are to be observed by G1 and tie line. If there is any change in S1, no problem with the tie line. But if there is any change in S2, the tie line has to observe the changes in power. But transmission line lo power vary. But what is the problem with the transmission line? You know that it will be having its own thermal constraints. Now, because of this, what is happening? The transmission losses may increase, and at the same time, G1 may not operate efficiently. But G2 may operate efficiently because G2 is not bothered about these things. G1 operates inefficiently. Efficiency may vary, but the advantages, apart from being simple, G2 can be operated at base load. Or you can operate it at max load, irrespective of the changes. Let us suppose if you want to operate it at some load to get maximum efficiency, you can operate this, all these multiple generators are there. You can operate all these multiple generators at their maximum efficiency, or at their maximum load, or at their base load. Only one generator will be having too much amount of inefficiency, and the tie lines are supposed to observe the changes in power, which is not a good desirable thing in power. Okay, and this type of method is called as flat frequency regulation. Okay, now I will show you second one. The second one is parallel frequency regulation. Parallel frequency regulation. In this parallel frequency regulation, change in loading is at either S1 or S2. Both G1 and G2 are employed. Whether it may be equal sharing or unequal sharing, but both the generators have to take the responsibility of sharing the load. Okay, even if there is power demanded here only, it is to be shared by these two. Even if it is here only, it is to be shared by these two. So what are the advantages here? All machines are loaded. So we can have an assumption that one single machine is not overloaded. Because earlier case only one single machine was being overloaded. But here all the machines are loaded. Somewhat better. So for failure and other failure the one human mentality. Just like that. Instead of overloading one single machine, all the machines will be partially loaded, isn't it? Now, and sorry, the disadvantage. What are the disadvantages? All units have to be controlled. No unit is running at base load. No unit is running at base load. So no proper efficiency for any of these units. This is called as a parallel frequency regulation. Understood? Parallel frequency regulation, where all the units will be taking the responsibility for generating the power. Now the last one is flat line frequency regulation. In this flat line frequency regulation, changes in loads at S1 or S2 are taken care by nearest units, which means any change in S1 is to be taken care by G1 only. Any change in S2 to be taken care by G2 only. ఇక్కడ ఏదైనా కావాలంటే ఇదే సప్లై చేయాలి, ఇక్కడ ఏదైనా కావాలంటే ఇదే సప్లై చేయాలి. So are you loading the transmission line? What is the biggest advantage of this one? Tie line power remains constant. Tie line power remains constant. That is the biggest advantage of this. The tie line power remains constant. Okay. This type of method is called as flat tie line frequency regulation. I'll write it here. Flat tie line loading control. Flat tie line loading control or flat tie line frequency regulation. Okay. Apart from this, these three are the primary things. Okay. First one was, what was the first one? Flat frequency regulation. The next one is the parallel frequency regulation. Now this is flat tie line loading control, or what we call it as flat tie line frequency regulation. Now there are some other techniques I'll discuss with you. Don't get bored, guys. Now, selective frequency control. Earlier we have seen flat tie line loading frequency control. Now we will go with the selective frequency control. Selective frequency control. Okay. Now in this one, in the selective frequency, normally what happens in a large interconnected system, let us suppose there are too many number of areas, area 1, area 2, area 3, Warangal is one area, Karimnagar is one area, Vijayawada is one area, Chennai is one area. Normally what happens is, whenever there is a large interconnected system, if you assign this large interconnected system the frequency control, so what it will do is nothing but it will choose the largest area. It will choose the largest area. Let us suppose Chennai is the largest area. Frequency control will be assigned to this largest area, and all the other areas will be followed by this one, will be taken instructions by this one to maintain the frequency. Okay, this is a common procedure which is generally employed in most of the parts, because there will be number of areas and all areas are interconnected. So one will take the key responsibility and the other will follow it. Okay. Now, in selective frequency control, what will happen is each system in the group. Now there are three systems in the group. Each system in the group, it takes care of the load changes on its own system, and it doesn't bother about the other systems. Let us suppose this is giving instructions to maintain the frequency at these areas. Let us suppose it gives instructions to maintain it 49.9, 49. So whatever the load variation is there, it will take care of its own load variation. Even though if it gets any request from this area, it won't heed to its request. This type of thing is called a selective frequency control. Selective frequency control. Okay. The next one is tie-line load bias control. In tie-line load bias control, what happens is the master frequency controller, it initiates the signal. Say master A3, as I have already mentioned. So this is selective frequency control, where only each area takes care of its own loads. The other one is tie-line load bias control. The other one is a tie-line load bias control. In this tie-line load bias control, what happens is there will be a master LFC, because all the units, all the areas will be having LFC, and out of all this, there will be a master LFC. This master LFC, apart from this, there will be a tie-line recorder, which records all the bars in all the transmission. Normally, what happens is there will be tie lines between all these. There will be a master LFC, low frequency controller, and there will be a tie line recorder measuring the power inputs on the tie. Now, in this one, the tie line instrument, what it does is nothing but it gives instruction to the master LFC in order to regulate the frequency. Okay. So, wherever the frequency, write down the basic principle. Frequency change in any area is tackled by all. Simple. Here, each area takes its own power changes, its own loads. But here, what happens is any load will be tackled by all of these units. How it will be done? There will be a master LFC controller, and there will be a tie line recorder, and it records all the tie lines. Okay, tie line power transmission. So whenever there is any requirements, so these tie line recorders will send the signal to LFC. So this will take the decision of how to transfer. Let us suppose if there is a requirement of it. You can transmit the power through this tie line or through these two tie lines, isn't it? So if it is a requirement, you can transmit the power from here or to here. So master LFC will take the controller by considering the tie line loadings of each of these. Okay, this sort of control is called a tie line load bias. Okay. So I hope you have understood now. So frequency regulations. What are the frequency regulations? I will frequency regulations. The first one is flat frequency regulation. The second one is parallel frequency regulation. The third one is flat tie line loading. Isn't it? In multi-area system. In multi-area system, how the frequency is controlled? Step one will be selective frequency control. The second one will be tie line frequency control. Okay. Tie line load frequency control. Okay. So these are the different frequency controls which you need to remember. And I think there is time. Okay. I'll close it quickly, don't worry. This is a topic which we have discussed yesterday. Why should we maintain the frequency? Okay, let's close it now itself. Just I will take 5 minutes of your time. The last topic for today. What is the need for maintaining the frequency constant? Okay. Why frequency maintaining constant is very, very, very important thing in analytical. Why we are so much bothered about this maintaining of frequency? Why? Why? Because we will list out at least 4 or 5 points now. Okay. So the first one is if frequency varies, speed of AC motor will vary. Isn't it? Speed of AC motors will vary. This is a universal phenomenon. If speed of AC motors varies, then this is going to be a big problem in our electrical engineering, because we will be having variable speed applications, we will be having constant speed applications. We will be selecting motors depending upon our requirements, whether it is to be operated at 3000 RPM or 4000 RPM or 1500 RPM or continuous varying speeds. So once we have decided, once we have picked up the motor, it will run at 3000 RPM or 1500 RPM, assuming that the frequency is 50 Hz. If the frequency varies, the speed of the machines will vary. We may not get the desired speed in our application. So that's why for all of our AC applications where we do employ motor, in order to get our desired speed, we should maintain frequency constant. Now, the second one is about the electric clocks. You know, electric clocks. These are mostly run by synchronous. The synchronous motor speed is dependent on frequency. So based upon the synchronous motor speed itself, electric clocks are being set up. Isn't it? If frequency varies, the speed of the synchronous motor will vary. The electric clock may malfunction. So which means that the accuracy is the function of your frequency. If frequency varies, the accuracy of electric clock is going to vary. Isn't it? So this is more important, because based upon this electric clocks, most of our electronic equipment is going to operate. Now, you can take about this turbine also, turbine blades also. Turbine blades are designed to operate at a proper frequency. If the turbine blades do operate at lower or higher frequency, then automatically their blades will get damaged. Turbine blades get damaged. This is one. And as you all know, in our power systems, there are transformers and there are some induction motors. Various equipment out there which do require a particular frequency. As you all know, operated under frequency. What will happen if they are operating under frequency? All these machines, the transformers or induction motors, which do have magnetic fields. Now, I'll show you. You might have studied in your unit. Now, you know, V, or which is nothing but your E, isn't it? It is a function of phi into isn't it? It is a function of d phi by dt, isn't it? The rate of change of flux. The rate of change is nothing but frequency, phi into it. In order to obtain a constant voltage, I am assuming that my system must operate at a constant voltage. If frequency is dropped by some means, in order to maintain constant voltage, what I am supposed to do? I should increase my flux. If I increase the flux, what will happen? It is operated under frequency to maintain. constantly, what will happen? Phi increases. If phi increases, what will happen? It will move on to saturation, which is not desirable in electrical engineering. And it may also lead to more amount of core losses, or it may lead to overheating. So all undesirable things in our electrical engineering, isn't it? And from the distribution point of view, and from the distribution system point of view, if the frequency is not normal, and if the system is experiencing sub-frequencies, if the system is experiencing sub-frequencies, or what we call it as subnormal frequency, or abnormal frequency, or abnormal voltage, what will happen? The suppliers, they will get affected, isn't it? What will happen? Revenue will be lost. Similarly, no consumer also wants any abnormal operation of frequency and voltage, isn't it? And even if you go, you might have visited a thermal plant also, the ID fans and RD fans, etc., FD fans. All these things, the black will decrease if there is a frequency decrease. Okay, if you don't understand, you leave this thing. You just at least concentrate on these 5 things, okay? At least you are supposed to mention me at least 4 or 5 things if I ask you in the examination. Okay. So what I can say, the overall operation of the power system can be better controlled if you maintain a strict limit on the frequency deviation, isn't it? So what you have learned so far? We have started with the control channels in a turbo generator. We have understood, we have discussed the different types of frequency regulation. We have discussed the advantage and disadvantage of each one of these things. And we have also understood why frequency is to be maintained constant. Because all these things, they do need a constant frequency. As discussed in our last class, to become a leading industrial country, we should maintain frequency constant. No foreign investor will come if the frequency is going to vary in our country. Okay. That's all for today. Thank you guys. Thank you for joining.